Someone walks into the store and they're like, so what's next, Collins? And I jokingly say, Paris Fashion Week. Neither of them question it. Okay, I can't doubt myself. Did I just plan a Paris Fashion Week show? I never even saw myself as this like top fashion designer. And I'm not invited, right? I'm not on the official calendar. I'm just there. I didn't even know how many looks you were supposed to have in a fashion show. I guess a lot of the stuff I do is just to make 15-year-old me happy or give 15-year-old me an opportunity. I think we just fucking run with it, you know? Real authentic New York City. I come from a sports background, and so if you're not doing good, I'm gonna cut you. I'm like the tough coach type, like, get fucking better, which not everyone in 2020 can deal with. Yeah, you guys are all about it. Your parents were like, I fucking hate you. So that's good. That's the generation I like. Designers are the new rock stars. The young generation now aspires to be designers more so than rock stars or musicians or whatever. So I think the lane is super competitive, and right now is only getting more competitive because the ease of entrance with social media and even just manufacturing and just the internet is making things way more easy to just start a brand. KidSuper was kind of created as an exaggerated form of my personality. I was just authentically myself. I was really just doing my own thing within this world.
I really wanted to create a t-shirt business, and I was always like, yo, let's make it, but I couldn't find a cool name.
It's funny now, when I first started out, Complex wasn't talking about me, LVMH wasn't talking about me, so I wasn't even concerned to how to navigate. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna knock down these doors. Actually, low-key Complex has never written about me. Anyways, I was born in New York City. My parents were street vendors selling goods on the side of the street in little like makeshift booths. So I think that was, my hustle came from, I mean, my mom's from Spain and my dad's from Ireland. So they had both come to America to try to make it. And that entrepreneurial American dream energy not only inspired me to try to make my own thing, but kind of made it feel possible. It was definitely a lane that I could take because it was a lane they were taking. They don't even remember their brand name. That's how little they cared about a brand, which I find funny. I moved to Mexico in the first grade. I spent a year in Mexico, and then from there I moved to Beloit, Wisconsin. And then 8th grade, I moved back to New York City. And so by the age of 13, I had lived so many different lives and I had experienced so many different cultures, socioeconomic places. And so that made me the person I was, where I could go into any room and be myself. I think a lot of people try to find out who they are in high school or college. And for me, I'd already found out who I was at 12. So when I came back to New York City at 13, I was kind of entrepreneurial at a young age because I'd seen so many things. And I was always the new kid in school. So you can either be shy in the background or be like, hi, I'm Colum, let's be best friends. Another thing is, since I was moving so young, I had this like preconceived idea that I was always gonna move. So I had to make the most of every moment. And I think that's a huge part of the KidSuper spirit, is like, we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I might not be here, let's go. I came from Beloit, Wisconsin, where you bought your groceries, your bicycle, and your clothes in the same Walmart, right? Fashion wasn't even a thing. Then I get put into New York, where fashion is the first thing that you see about when you meet someone, and is such a defining factor of who you are in New York. I'm thrown into high school where if you're wearing the same shoes 2 days in a row, people make fun of you. If you're not wearing Supreme, Bape, 10 Deep, Mishka, obviously I wasn't wearing those brands because there was no need in New York, but I also didn't like that you could get those brands financially quite easily if you were wealthy enough, and then it kind of made you cooler. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own clothes and I'm gonna be cool, and then everyone's gonna wanna wear my clothes. I remember going to Blades which if you're familiar with streetwear, it was a skate shop on 8th Street. And I brought in my t-shirt that we had in high school. And I go, hey, you guys, can I speak to the manager, buyer? Buyer comes up to me, he's like, cool graphic, what's the brand? And I remember like, who gives a fuck what the brand is? You like the t-shirt, you'd buy the t-shirt. He's like, yeah, I mean, it's a great graphic, but what's the brand? And I couldn't understand that he cared more about the brand than the t-shirt. I thought if it's a good t-shirt, it sells in your store. And so I remember leaving there and being like, guys, the only thing that matters is the brand. And that was, I mean, I learned at 15. So by the time I launched my thing at 17, 18, I was so brand focused and so story driven that I was ahead of my time just because of that one experience at 15. I went to Brooklyn Tech High School, which is a real math and science public school in New York that you have to test into. And so there weren't too many art classes. And so me and my friends that were drawing a lot decided to take our drawings and put them on t-shirts. I had been wanting to start a t-shirt brand, and so we got together and we're like, we're a designer, you're the designer, you're the head of marketing. And we were 8 kids from all the boroughs that came together for the brand. Every little decision we argued over, because there was like such a weird hierarchy. Everyone wanted to be boss. It's really hard, especially New Yorkers. Everyone's got an ego and thinks they're a superstar, and so that was always causing problems.
The first shirt, we were sketching like mad shit. I was doodling on this wall. We had all this stuff. I really wanted to create.
Sunny Money comes and he's like, yo,
what the fuck, man? I really wanted to create a t-shirt.
And then at the end, we were arguing over who should get more money, and it was like, guys, we're arguing over $300 divided by 10 people. So when I knew that from an early age that you needed kind of a singular vision and you needed a captain if it was really gonna work. And so after high school, when I Beyoncé'd them and went solo, I knew I had to have the vision. My sophomore year, I had been kicked out of my dorms for spray painting the walls and turning my room into a store. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna get a store and live in the back. No one believed me. I knew when I started KidSuper I was gonna have to go solo for a good couple of years until it was established that my vision was the one to follow. And it wasn't so much of an ego thing, it was just something that seemed necessary from my high school days. I just think when you're starting off, doing is more important than fucking talking about it. Okay, almost done. Let's see how it looks. When I launched that, I had friended all of Mac Miller's friends on Facebook. And because me and Mac Miller were the same age, there was always like a 6 degrees away. And so I kept messaging all of them and I was like, look, I have this brand. I think you'll like this t-shirt. And I remember they were into tie-dye at the time and I had made a specific tie-dye if I ever got the chance. I was like, actually, if you're ever in New York City, I'd love to just bring you the box. And he responds, we're in New York now, come over. And I was like, I'm 18, 19, Mac Miller's 18, 19. And I'm like, hey, like, here, this is my first time doing anything like this, my first time any celebrity wearing KidSuper. And Mac Miller comes up to me and he's like, you're the t-shirt kid? Like, oh, let me try that on right now. And takes off his shirt, puts it on. And at that time, I was always like the ham enthusiastic person. And so seeing him act like that was like, I was like, oh, this is why he's so successful. He's just so, he was the energy, he was the light bulb. And so I got all excited about it and he puts on the clothes, takes the picture, and I'm like, holy shit. And for the press photos, he's wearing the KidSuper hat. And you don't really see the logo, but you see the floral brim that I had, you know, that was my one genius design moment. And so it ends up being his face on the homepage of iTunes wearing my hat. From launching 3 months to the for the cover of iTunes, I remember calling my mom, I'm like, I made it. Because as you can see, the location isn't It's really close to an above ground train. It's not Soho. There's not that much walking traffic. It isn't really a shopping area. And so not many people were coming in, and I was just sitting working retail. And I was like, fuck.
Well, you were one of Virgil's successors at LV Men's Louis Vuitton collaboration. How did that come about? Did you even see that coming?
I didn't see that. I saw that less coming than you did. And you probably, from the person I've learned over this call, I don't think I was on your top 10 list.
I didn't even know who you were.
This is what I'm saying.
I didn't even know who you were at the time that... Well, no, Virgil passed away in 2021. When did you go to Vuitton?
2023.
So that was recent. Okay. That was actually when you came on the radar a bit.
Yeah, for everyone. That was a snobby fashion person.
Am I one of those people?
You said it. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I wasn't. We would sit around with my friends and be like, who's next from Virgil? And we wouldn't even put my name in like, column, this would be cool for you. Like, it was so far-fetched.
Yeah.
And for so many reasons.
I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Martine Rose.
I thought it was going to be Martine Rose. Even when I was there auditioning, I thought it was going to be Martine. Oh, I didn't know. I had won the LVMH Karl Lagerfeld Prize, and Delphine Arnault runs it, and she was also the co-CEO of Louis Vuitton. I had won it probably like 6 months or a year before I get this email, and they go, "We want to Zoom with you." Delphine Arnault wants to Zoom, and Michael Burke, and I'm like, "Oh, cool. This is part of the mentorship from the LVMH Prize." And so I'm in the Zoom like, hey, what's up? You know, things are going well in the business. Like, thank you so much for like the 150K you win or the 50K you win. So my point of that, I thought I was there for mentorship. So I'm kind of like, oh, hey. And they're like, hey. And I'm like, yeah, like, and I'm trying to show that I've been doing stuff in the business. And they're like, we're not calling really about that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what are you calling about? And then they asked, do I want to pitch? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well...
Can you explain to the audience what that means?
Exactly. They're like, we want to... They go, and I go, how long? They're like, we want you to pitch for creative director. And I'm like, okay, well, how long do I get? And they go, how long do you want? And I go, well, how long do other people get?
How long until you need to pitch, or how long will the meeting be?
No, how long until I have to pitch?
Okay.
Because I'm like, is this a day? Do I have a day to do this, or do I have 6 months? And they're like 2.5 weeks. And so for 2.5 weeks, I don't sleep. And I mean, my pitch was insane. I'm 3D printing shoes. I'm shooting commercials. I have 500-page book. Like, it was wild. And so I think I was the 25th person on the list of whoever else got interviewed.
But you don't know who those others are?
No.
Okay.
I know, I've heard rumors of people, but I actually have. And I was like, so who else? You know, I was curious. But again, for me, it was like, damn, I'm in this room. I'm not going to come. Again, I've always been the person who shows up 1,000,000 times more than you think I'm going to show up. And that was an opportunity that I never thought was possible. So I literally didn't, like, my hands were like this the night before the meeting because I hadn't slept in 10 days.
Did you go by yourself?
To the meeting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like, they just give you a date and a time. And you're like, oh, I guess it's in Paris, you know? So then you have to show, like, they didn't give me too much information, and I didn't want to ask too much.
Yeah.
So I just like showed up, but it was a pretty surreal. And then also after the interview, it's silence. So you're like, okay. And I'm telling no one because I didn't want to be in that rumor mill, and I didn't want people to think like, Colum, you don't deserve it. Why the fuck are you even interviewing this? And so I told like very few people.
That was smart, probably.
When I got the call to like do it, I was like, damn, my life just changed.
This is my opportunity to speak to the Rick Rosses, the DJ Khaled's, the Post Malones, the Wiz Khalifa's, people that I think are influential. They've done something, they've created something. But more importantly, it's titled Self-Made because I don't care personally about the success side. Because on the outside, it looks like, from my perspective, you've always been successful. But it's not that case. It's always harder than it is. So I ask everybody the same thing, and I'll ask you, what does self-made mean to you?
Not the question I thought you were going to start with, despite the whole series being called Self-Made. I guess what I think for my own personal self-made and like what KidSuper is to me, it was very much a dream world that I was drawing up that now I can physically walk into. And so for me, the self-made aspect is, I just remember being 14, 15, dreaming of, you know, having an own space where I could do different things, where I could collaborate with different people, where I could meet the greatest minds of the world. And I think that's what this interview series for you is so special, is because you get to talk to who inspires you. But for me, now I'm thinking like the whole time we've been talking, I was like, well, have you ever made a new category? Well, have you ever made like a non-alcohol? Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I know him now. I mean, might leave this and pitch you, you know, a beverage idea.
But so where I think we have, if I can be so bold to say we have something in common, is when I listen to you, when I read your interviews, when I talk to you, for me, it's about, I just want to try all the ideas that I think could work.
Right.
Is it that way for you?
It's that, and it's also with every little bit of success, more opportunity, doors open. So as I said, when I was in eighth grade, I won an entrepreneur competition, and it was, my product was a beverage, and it was called Flow 2 for You. And I had to present, and I had all that, and I went above, like way above and beyond everyone else. And I remember thinking like, I'll get to the point where I'm successful enough to launch my own company. It might not be my own beverage company. It might not be the first thing or whatever, but I always wanted to do it. And now, as I become more and more successful and collaborate with different people, doors open up, and you know, we meet different people that are in the beverage industry.
I'm here for you.
But yeah, for me, it was just like trying the things I always wanted to try, and then weirdly figuring out that things are more possible than you think. You know, I always had this idea that it was possible, but it's very cool to get to the point where, you know, things are indoors. I've made pitch decks for 10 years that are now getting accepted, I guess what I'm saying.
Because you're successful.
Because people are finally understanding. And I don't know if it's so much about the success, because obviously I don't think I'm that successful, but I think it's because of the work that I've done. You can, once you look into the KidSuper world, you understand and respect all that's gotten me here, and I think that has inspired and opened up possibilities.
I'm older than you, but I wish I had your 14 and 15-year-old, I know what I want, I know what I want to do, and I can go do it. Where does that come from?
I was always different. Not like different, but I was always like standout type of person. I also was very competitive. I always had to be, or tried to be the best. And like, I was always a straight A student, but I was also very good in soccer. I was always doing this. And I kind of wanted something that, what I love about KidSuper is it's a brand that really channeled that energy. That 14-year-old energy where I was like, I can do this. Like, this is what I'm going. And the fact that I was able to brand that is so good, because not only does it inspire me on a daily, where I remember, I mean, this is a stupid story, but I did a ski goggle collab with ASAP Ty, and he uses ski goggles when he's on ATVs. And it wasn't snowing. And I was like, damn, the whole thing I wanted to do was a snow thing. But I had a staircase. And so I was like, maybe I just ski down the staircase. And I remember being on the top of the staircase and looking down and being like, this is the dumbest idea ever, right? I really don't have to do this. And I was like, but am I gonna chicken out, right? Like, there's a camera, there's everything. I was like, I called the brand KidSuper. I gotta be this superhero, like, fuck it. And I skied down the stairs. Ended up really hurting myself. But the idea of like that, taking that leap and going down the unknown and channeling that as a brand is what's really exciting for me and inspiring, and kind of allows me to do anything.
I had tons of ideas, tons. And my problem was I never picked one.
Right.
Because I have too many ideas. It wasn't until I picked one.
Right.
Is fashion picking one?
Yes. Fashion, for me, was what's so great about fashion, and obviously you can call it like, you know, stupid and luxury, like frivolous, right? But it's a connector. and it's the easiest connector, right? What's one thing all people are, you're wearing something, right? It's not like we're meeting each other naked. So it was always, for me, such a good icebreaker and such a good catalyst for other things. If I walk past you on the street and you're wearing that jacket, I'm coming up to you and being like, hey, I made that. What's your name? Let's talk. And it was always, and so for me, even being 14, 15, I was meeting new kids in my high school because they're like, hey, what t-shirt? I want to wear that t-shirt. And so fashion was picking something and was also always a great icebreaker.
What is it about 14, 15 that is the inspiration? Meaning, I get the feeling you think back to that kid.
I mean, so everyone always thinks like, I remember I was doing a Vogue interview, and the guy clearly knew nothing about KidSuper, and it was one of my first times getting written up by Vogue, and someone had been like, you have to interview or review this show. And I remember him saying like, this childlike thing you have going can't last too long, right? Like this childlike act won't, like, you know, you do suffer from, you know, not everything's glitz and or childish. And I was like, this isn't an act. Like there's nothing about this that isn't so authentically me. I am like constantly happy, constantly giggling, constantly trying ridiculous things. Like I don't have any of those, like there's not a dark side that I'm hiding, you know? This isn't to be a jolly guy just to sell things. So I remember hearing that guy and being like, wow, you don't understand this brand.
Get it.
You don't get it at all. And I'm gonna prove you wrong. And then the next year I win the LVMH prize. It's like,
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I don't like the idea that people think it's like an act, right?
Sure.
For me, it's just harnessing what I think are the great things about humanity, right?
Where does that come from?
I had moved a shit ton. Like before I was 12, I moved 10 times. And I'm not talking about like moving, I moved social classes. I went from New York, Chicago, New York, Mexico, Beloit, Wisconsin, New York. I moved cultures, I moved like political, like everything was changing, right? And so I got this blend really early that I'd seen so many things, right? Met so many different types of people. So I was so sure of myself and so sure of the person that I wanted to be that I feel like I had a clear vision very young of like who I was and what I wanted to do and be.
Do your parents have an effect on you?
My parents are amazing. My mom's from Spain. My dad's from Ireland. They both came to New York, met each other in a crazy romantic thing. Met each other 3 months later, got married, then for a year backpacked through South America. And then were street vendors selling goods that they had bought in Panama, and then they'd come to New York and sell them on the street. And they were selling like hats and leather goods. And so they were always hustlers.
Were you around then?
Yeah, I was like 1,
Okay.
2. And then we started moving. But my mom's like an artist type, and my dad is a crazy man. So they were always like my dad.
But hold on, sorry. Let me just make sure. You just described you in essence.
Right.
Do you see that?
I am like the perfect blend of them. And what I love is like they definitely left where they were from for opportunity, right? And being their true self. My dad comes from like a really small town in Ireland with like very religious Catholic parents that really pressured him into being like a very straight A student, which he always was, but he's a crazy dude. So then he left to New York and was like, oh. And then my mom was from Spain and during the like 70s era, and she was like in this whole like druggy scene in Spain, and she left there to like try to make something of herself. So they had this like, I always say, people always ask me, was New York important to starting KidSuper? What I think about New York is there's an amazing energy here to make it, right? Everyone moves here to make it. You don't move here to like settle down and start a family. You move here to make your dreams come true. And so that I always wanted to capture that essence, and I think my parents had that by the spades.
Are they proud of you?
Yeah, they don't.
Were they ever? Sorry, I should take it back. When you said this is what I want to do, what was their reaction?
The thing is, and people ask me this often, I was doing it at 14 while getting straight A's. So they were like,
How can I get mad?
they were like, that was the thing. I never gave them the opportunity to be mad at me. It was like, okay, I got a math degree from NYU. It's like that, and that was my dad's parents are super, they're both teachers. So, like every time I go there, my grandmother's like, so when are you gonna use your math degree? But I got the degree. People often ask, like, were they supportive? Of course, but I didn't give them space to not be supportive.
When they were walking the runway in Paris,
Yeah.
your perspective of that, their perspective of that.
So I'm doing Paris Fashion Week for the first time, right? And this is, I always like to bring this up, but to get accepted to the official Paris Fashion Week calendar, what you have to do is you throw a fashion show at the same time in the same place. And fashion has this incredible like aura of exclusivity, right? But that concept is really open. There's not many, it's not like you can show up to the Super Bowl and start throwing a football next to, the coach and be like, I'm probably gonna try out.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what you can do in Paris. So I love that idea of like, if I do this big enough, well enough, they have to respect it and they have to come see it. So I do my first Paris Fashion Week show, which I think people take for granted as like, oh, Colin's just gonna, like as if it was such a crazy undertaking. I spent every last dollar that I had.
Nice to meet you. May I ask?
Yes.
Did you dress her this evening?
I don't know if you know, but one of the first fashion shows I ever did, she walked it, and she was wearing this look, so kind of cool.
It's a full circle moment. That's wonderful. Well, I had questions for you, but do you mind if I start with your mother?
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to, I guess, how proud you are, what you're feeling about this evening for your son?
I'm a bit stunned, and I'm giggling from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head.
Wonderful.
It's just so great that he wants to share it with me.
He's very excited. He's
Yeah.
taking our picture. Yeah,
Very
you deserve this moment as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Asking her the hard-hitting question.
Yes. May I ask you one now?
Yes.
If that's okay. I guess, how does it feel being here, being recognized by your peers? Are you more nervous or excited?
Well, it's kind of, when you watch award shows, you always assume they actually knew.
Yes.
And I can attest that we don't know.
That you don't know, yeah.
So I'm very much like, wow, I didn't realize I wouldn't know. I thought I'd know. But yeah, I'm nervous, excited, and can't believe I'm here. So pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I got the same questions today. They were like, are you scared you're going to let it slip who's winning? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're not going to tell me.
Yeah.
Someone
I was
does.
gonna say, do you know?
No, they would never. I don't know, some Freudian slip might come out,
I
yeah.
don't trust you.
Then I would say like,
I know, we have to discuss it. Do you mind speaking to what you're wearing tonight? I know it's yours, I'm very familiar with your work.
this is when I designed the Louis Vuitton collection, but what was special about this is my painting that they jacquarded into this suit, and so that's pretty cool. And
Yeah,
she's
it's
wearing
beautiful stuff.
a bag.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I was like, when else am I gonna wear this?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Well, thank you so much. Good luck tonight and congrats.
And then there was like a light bulb moment. I was like, I created this world. I was like, I don't need this to be a store how you think is a store. This can be anything I wanted. Converse calls me to consult on who's cool in New York, because I knew someone who was interning there. They hit me up. They're like, columns tapped in. I'm like, not cool, not cool. They're like, oh, you're kind of cool. I was like, I think so. They're like, why don't we use you for the shoot? I was like, I've been waiting for someone to say this. And they're like, okay, you can do this shoot. I get to the shoot, it's a photo shoot, and they're like, it's $5,000. I'm like, I am not paying $5,000 for this. What do you think I am? They're like, no, we're paying you $5,000. I'm like, you're paying me $5K for these and I'm like, take the pictures, let's go. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I'm a top model. And so I remember getting the 5K and being like, I have now the money to blow on this space. I'm gonna make it the fucking Willy Wonka factory I always wanted to do. So I built a recording studio in the basement.
What's the lyric? You know I'm not that good at rapping. Getting on the beat is hard.
I bought sewing machines, I bought backdrops, and I remember being like, okay, I can't make the recording studio the best recording studio because I don't have the money, but I can make it the coolest. I love hidden doorways. And so I was like, I need there to be a vending machine door that can slide in to get into the recording studio. I mean, this is illegal and I might get arrested. I don't know, statute of limitation. I grew up playing soccer on this thing called Pier 40. And you'd always get your bag stolen there. And so I remember, okay, there's no cameras there, but they have these vending machine doors on the side of it. And so I dressed up like a construction worker with one of my best friends, and I took a angle grinder and I sawed off a door of a vending machine. And I wrapped it up in bed sheets and we walked it out as construction workers. And it was the heaviest thing ever. And it was such a fucking project. I felt like a 007 Ocean's 11 thing. It's really heavy, and we had the coin box still in it with all the coins. And I had brought my friend who was very much against it and very much not mischievous. And the whole time he had the side that had the coin box on it, and I was in the front, and it was on our heads. And the whole time he's like, you fucking piece of shit, like, I've got the heavy side, go fuck yourself, I can't believe you got me to do this. And I, knowing and needing him, I'm like, dude, you're the strongest man I know. I was like, I could not do this with any other man. And I'm like, your biceps look gorgeous right now. We finally get it back to the basement. And we're like, my friend is so paranoid about the whole thing. He's ripping out all the electric. He's like, there's tracking. We gotta burn the serial code. They'll find us. And we end up lifting it up. And on the flap, right, there's a sticker. And it says, only those who want to be forgotten give up. And we look at each other and we're like, oh my God, this is our monolith. This is our Jesus moment. This is my cross. And so I always look at that sticker like, fuck, man. What I say is like, there's moments of magic in KidSuper. I built the whole thing. I did the electric of it. I now am like a semi-pro carpenter, but I figured out how to get it to slide. I was like, oh my God, I made the coolest recording studio. 2 months later, my friend Doug, who now works with KidSuper on KidSuper Records. So Doug hits me up and he's like, there's this artist from Atlanta called Russ. He's releasing a shit ton of music. His videos are bad. His aesthetic's bad. Would you want to do a music video for it? I bring Russ to the store. Russ sees the recording studio. He's like, wow, this is an amazing vibe. He's from Atlanta, right? So New York is, you know, the heart of music to some people. And it had the energy. You could hear the train tracks. It was in the basement. It had the vending machine door. There was art everywhere. He ended up staying 4 to 5 to 6 months on and off, sleeping in the basement. And that's everything I wanted. I wanted someone who, I was always like, KidSuper's artist in residence. But it's more of a hostel. But it actually ended up being an artist in residence. He never really left the basement. He'd wake up at odd hours, but he was so diligent about making music, and I'm so diligent about making things that we really clicked. And 2-3 years later, he drops his debut album. 4 songs were recorded in my basement. It ends up going platinum. I now have this huge plaque that's platinum record made to KidSuper Records. I mean, what's not more magical than that? All because I stole this fucking vending machine door. So someone walks into the store and they're like, so what's next, Colin? So people are wearing your clothes, you're getting a little bit well known, what's next? And I jokingly say, Paris Fashion Week. And I'm like, I'm fucking around. And the fact that they don't doubt me, I'm like, okay, I can't doubt myself.
We're fucking awesome.
I dropped 30K on the venue. I dropped 180K on the whole project. And I had 170K in my bank account. So the way clothing works, right, is I mean, as everyone knows, but you kind of have to have a bank of money because you have to keep ordering the next. So like, it'll feel like you have a shit ton of money, but then you're like, oh shit, my next collection is 120K. And I'm like, man, if I'm gonna go for this, if I'm gonna go for Paris Fashion Week, am I gonna stop myself for 20K? Like, to stop this really important moment in my life because of fucking money? I wasn't gonna sacrifice the vision to save 20K. I know it's hard to make 20K, but not if you're really doing it, right? And it would be not believing in myself, right? Oh, I can't make 20K back? Colin, you're a failure. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go big or go home, right? I rent this venue. And so I'm like, holy shit, this is real. My parents are European. They're like, we wanna come. I'm like, perfect, please come. And they didn't know, but I was like, Mom, I want you to walk. Dad, I want you to walk. And they're like, haha, good one, Colin. The show's called Bull in a China Shop, right? And that's kind of how I felt, right? I'm in a place where I don't feel like I belong, but I'm gonna fucking break something, right? I'm gonna make enough noise that you can't ignore the bull in the China shop. Next day, wake up, they text me, you got the Vogue review, right? We end up getting this review, and I'm like, holy shit, this is everything we were saying. Thank God we got the fucking 30K for this space. And then I get back to New York, and I don't have enough money to Uber myself home. And so my friends pay for the Uber. But yeah, what a story. That was really my first step into getting accepted into the fashion. I had come from such a streetwear background, which there can be a ceiling on your creativity with streetwear, just because, you know, hoodies, t-shirts, they don't want you to be making dresses and stuff like that. So this was me stepping into that fashion world and being like, I came from this, but I'm just as talented or just as hardworking or harder working. I like that, you know? We broke in. Childlike belief that anything is possible, and I think everyone has that in them. So I don't think there's too many people I can't collaborate with. I've often tried to think of brands that I wouldn't collaborate with, and I even think like Viagra, I would do the collaboration and I would make sweatpants with a little bit more on the bulge part, just for, you know, when it gets rock hard, you got a little bit more space. And I think that is hilarious and KidSuper, and already a brilliant marketing idea. So Viagra, I'm ready.
You're not only marrying people this weekend, but you have a collab with J Balvin.
We've collaborated with Shawn Mendes, J Balvin, ASAP, Joey Badass, Kehlani, Russ, Lolo, Zwei, Steve Aoki.
What was the feeling like when you made your first million?
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I never talk about how much money I have, but it's like right now. Like, we were just calculating our thing, and I was gonna screenshot my bank account. But the thing is, I'm about to spend that fully on this new space. Oh, fuck, the train. That's a funny question though, complex. It's all about going for it, shooting for it. Thank you so much, I appreciate everyone. Oh yeah, I really do not care at all about money. I've had way more beautiful moments with $0 in my bank account. So now that we have a decent amount, it's just how to fund and support and make more of those amazing moments, and also creating memorable things, you know? I had a lot of goals in my life. Now I'm trying to hit them.